The housing crisis is creating a lot of anger. People have good reason to be bitter. There are over 8,500 people homeless, 3,000 of them children. There are 100,000 people on waiting lists for social housing, and tens of thousands of people are in mortgage arrears. But who is to blame for this crisis? Some people online and in conversation will tell you that immigration is to blame, but that's bullshit, and here's why. So you'll read it in The Sun, you'll read it in the Daily Mail. Newspapers produced by wealthy billionaires will try and convince you that immigration is to blame for the housing crisis. And it seems logical, doesn't it? As if the economy is a biscuit tin. There's a limited amount of biscuits in the tin, and if more people come in, well then there's going to be less for the people that are already there. That's not how the economy works. And if you think about it, in the 1980s, when I was growing up in Fatima Mansions flats, there was no immigration really to speak of. And according to the racists, I should have grown up in a wonderful paradise. But that wasn't the case, far from it. And then, as bad as things were in Fatima Mansions in the 1980s, when the Celtic Tiger came along and 15% of the workforce were migrants who'd come in looking for work, according to the racists, things should have got worse. But actually, the economy grew and got bigger and more productive. So it doesn't seem to be the case that there's a correlation between influx of people and the distribution of housing or wealth in our society. You see, the key thing is, we don't own the biscuit tin. Let's say the migrant workers and the Irish workers work every week to produce a tin with 10 biscuits in it. The bosses take the whole tin. They throw you back 1 or 2 biscuits and ask you to fight over them, while they hoard the rest. So who then is to blame for the shortage of biscuits? Well, it isn't one or the other worker, is it? And let's say you kick out the migrant workers. You tell them that they have to leave the country, which would mean forming a police state that was able to kick in doors, put people into waiting camps, kick them onto boats and planes. In other words, a strong state that, hang on a minute, would be able to stop the local workers from fighting for any kind of change. And then the economy shrinks because there's less workers. The amount of biscuits in the tin shrinks. And guess what? The rich won't want to sacrifice their profits. They'll continue to hoard the produce of each week's work. And the idea that economics is about individuals competing for scarce resources is the underpinning of neoliberalism, of Thatcherism, and of right-wing economics. The idea that more people coming into a society equals less wealth was first put about by a thinker called Malthus. But the problem with this Malthusian theory is it makes no sense when you look at history. According to Malthus, we should have got progressively poorer since the Stone Age. When I look around me, I see a society with far more evidence of greater productivity and greater wealth than we had in the Stone Age. Every pair of hands and every new child that was born through the course of human history was a pair of hands that could contribute to society. The problem isn't the amount of people. The problem is the distribution and ownership of the wealth. Let's look at some stats. Since 2009, 150,000 more people have left Ireland than have come in. So why aren't there 150,000 more houses? You see, it's not as if a landlord says, oh, that black worker has left the country, I'm going to hand the house over to an Irish worker. Oh, here's the set of keys. It doesn't work that way. They want to make money. They own the house. It's their private property. And the biggest landlords in the country are the vulture funds. Vulture funds like Canadian firm Iris Ria. As long as housing remains in private hands and in the hands of the wealthy, we will have a housing crisis. As long as social housing is only a tiny percentage of our housing, we will have a housing crisis. So if you want to blame somebody for the housing crisis, don't blame other working class and poor people. Blame Fianna Fáil, blame Fine Gael, blame Anglo-Irish Bank, the developers, blame NAMA, blame the Irish rich.